This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe from hackers. For example, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries, streaming services such as DAZN in Spain for those all-important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe if you use public Wi-Fi, such as a college or a cafe. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning that you can even share an account with friends and family. On top of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you don't like it, you can even get your money back. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for just over €2 per month and up to 4 months free. Why not scan the QR code on screen or use the link in the description to take advantage of this offer. How are we, my friends? You are very welcome along to Sunday night's late night agenda. I hope you're in fine form this evening. We're going to be speaking about a link to Bradley BARCOLA from Matt Thielen. We're going to talk about Curtis Jones hitting 200 appearances for the Reds. We are, of course, going to discuss the Mohamed Salah situation, Antoine Semenyo, and lots more. And by the way, as always, I do sit here reading the chat before I go live, and I have to say I agree with all the comments that are saying defender, defender, defender. I'm with you. If we had to bring in one player, it would be a defender for me. But, you know, let's talk about attackers because they're what's in the media today. We'll go through and give you the very latest on the situation with Semenyo and why Liverpool are apparently looking at Bradley BARCOLA. We'll talk about Semenyo and where he may end up, about Mohamed Salah. We'll talk about the crazy potential takeover of Barcelona and a little bit on Michael Elise as well. But most importantly, the Reds sitting in a decent position now in the league table. I was just having a little look at it before we went live. You can look at it one of two ways. That we're 2 points off Chelsea in 4th place, or that we're 7 points off Aston Villa in 3rd place. So for me, that's the aim. We should be looking to reel in Villa, get to that positioning. It's a dangerous game if you're trying to just hover around the 4th place spot. But we are certainly in better shape than we were. United, of course, still have to play tomorrow. If they get a draw or a victory, I think they go above us. But for now, we're trending in the right direction and it's very welcome. It's been an interesting 24 hours, though, because it still doesn't look like we have a definitive answer to what is happening with the Mohamed Salah situation. I've seen such a varied range of reporting on it, even from the same newspaper, and I'll touch on that in a moment. But for now, thank you guys for coming in. We always appreciate your support, and let's get stuck into it. Ryan, how are you, bro? Said, evening, Craig. Hope you're doing well. I'm always doing a little bit better, Ryan, when the Reds win. So thank you, man, for dropping in and asking about me. I hope things are good with you. I have to say that Leeds-Brentford game was one of the most boring Super Sunday spectacles I've had to sit through. Just wasn't great at all, was it? Henderson getting a goal for Brentford, Leeds getting an equaliser from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but God, it was a tough watch. Fifth place, not qualifiers. I don't know if that's been confirmed yet. I don't know. I think it's a season-on-season thing, depending on the coefficients. 5th could very well get you in. I just, for a fact, we know 4th gets us in. But yes, 5th would be probably enough, depending on how English clubs do in Europe. I want to just talk about a stat that caught my eye today, because I don't know how to interpret this stat. Let me read it out to you, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from. So, no Premier League team so far has created more chances with 197 or a higher XG with 30.2 than Liverpool this season. And the reason I say I'm not sure how to interpret that stat is, should I be believing we're wasteful, or should I be believing that we've been unlucky? Because either one of them shows that Liverpool are at least getting into good positions to be scoring goals this season. So it certainly feels like we've been wasteful in the final third, and at least that's what I take from it. You need more context for it, of course, but maybe Arna had something right about us being unlucky in certain situations. Do you think Szoboszlai could ever play as a striker? Not for us anyway. I mean, I don't want him playing as a striker. Look, Dom is kind of one of those Gerrard type players that can probably do a job anywhere. You could play him at centre back and I'm sure he'd put in a shift for you. No, for me personally, I wouldn't want him as one of the two strikers. I think he does his best work in the space behind. I like him on the right side of midfield, actually. I think that gives us a bit of a better balance. Leona said a bit of both, Craig, wasteful and unlucky. Well, here's one for you. So I watched back the game last night. After I was finished with all of my content, I sat there and I watched back the game. And I thought to myself, we're giving up a lot of chances here. You know, we won 2-0 and we're giving up a lot of chances. But I seen a stat today that kind of just backed up my gut feeling after the game. And it was Brighton had a higher XG than us in that game yesterday, even though we won it and kept a clean sheet. So I really don't know how I feel about where Liverpool are at the minute. You know, because, you know, like I've said, you can look at that stat to show that we created a lot of chances and had a high XG this season. But then yesterday, we won the game 2-0. I should be sitting here talking about a clean sheet and feeling happy about it. But I really feel like yesterday we rode our luck. And look, you'll always take a victory however it comes, don't get me wrong. 5 games unbeaten isn't to be sniffed at. But that game yesterday just really felt to me like we got away with one, rather than we did anything particularly good. On another day with some better finishing, that could have been a different outcome. And I know that sounds a little bit negative, but the reason I'm being so forceful with it is my goal here, my aim is to figure out, are we turning a corner with Arna? Are the players really, you know, getting back to where we need to be? Or have we just had a little bit of the rub of the green, whereas in other games maybe we haven't? And I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I'm not entirely comfortable with what we're doing, but there's no denying there's been some improvements. So I want to know where you guys are at with that one. And of course, don't forget, if you can, do vote in our poll this evening. The first one we've put up is, would you rather Liverpool signed in, or who would you rather Liverpool signed in January? Antoine Semenyo, Bradley Barcola, or neither? Jared Kelly, how are you, Jared? Said, I honestly think if we strengthen at the back line, we could come good. All the players are experienced, and I think each game is getting better. I'm right with you. Right with you, my friend, on the defender. That has to be priority number one. And I'm not trying to say tonight, by the way, with the poll, that we're not looking in the defensive position. It's just these are the names that have been in the mix today, and there's slim pickings in the media with regards to particular defenders being linked. So I'm not saying that isn't the case, Jared, because I'm with you, bro. We need a defender first and foremost. Here's one of my favourite account usernames of all. Thundercats Litterbox. How are we, my friend? Said, Semenyo is bang average and has fell off a cliff since his hot start. Barcola, just what we need. Another forward who's talented and can't finish. So, I've never been a fan of Bradley Barcola. So, I definitely agree with you on that one. I find him very frustrating. He's the type of forward that, yes, he'll score goals, but it's more what he doesn't score that I would be concentrating on. And on Antoine Semenyo, look, my answer to that needs a bit more context. So I'm happy to bring him in if he's a Chiesa replacement. Now, you're probably going, hang on a minute, Craig. Well, what? I'm not trying to get rid of Fede. But again, if we brought in Semenyo and the manager moved on Chiesa, I'd understand that. But I'm not sure how I'd feel if he was a Salah replacement, if that makes sense. Because one of the reasons I would be so pro bringing Semenyo in is the versatility and his ability to play on either side. So it wouldn't be a necessary you're coming in to take Mo's place, but it would give us good cover on that side. For me, after yesterday, I'd like to think that Mo wants to stay. Really don't know how that one pans out, but that's why I'd be more pro Semenyo than I would be Barcola. And also, I do agree on your point about him maybe not hitting the heights he did early season. But how much of that, again, is to do with the team he's in and would he do better for us? Sometimes I'm glad I'm not making these decisions as a sporting director or anything, because it's a tough call. It's a tough call. And add into that, our need is probably more increased in other areas as well. Sanid, how are we? Long time no see. Mental health break. I totally understand that, my friend. I'm actually I'm taking a 2-day mental health break myself on Tuesday and Wednesday, so I completely get where you're coming from. Love to the community as always. Decision to keep or sell Salah only next summer, in my opinion. Best for all parties. Well, Here's a bit of the reason why I'm confused. So the same newspaper has put in 3 different variations of the whole situation with Salah. So firstly, the Mail on Sunday write, Mohamed Salah's future at Liverpool has not been resolved entirely, despite Arne Slot saying he has no issues with the forward. Also, from the Mail on Sunday, Liverpool have no intention of letting Mohamed Salah leave in January and remain committed to resolving the situation. Also, Mail on Sunday, Saudi clubs are willing to pay £100 million for Mohamed Salah if he shows a desire to leave. So as you can see, it's only going to add to our own confusion about it. I've seen things yesterday in the media from, you could see the tears in Salah's eye at full time, to it was a good end to the whole Salah debacle, and now we can go off and focus on the AFCON and come back to Liverpool and get going again. I have not got a clue where we're at with the Salah situation, if it's resolved or if it isn't. I do want to show you guys a photo though, because this really did bring a smile to my face. So we know it's the Christmas season, and we know we all have our own meetups and our own Christmas parties or our own whatever. Well, how about this for a picture? All the former Liverpool stars together for a former players' Christmas outing. What a collection of talent in that photograph, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. You know, some of the absolute greats there. King Kenny there. God there himself. John Barnes. Just an incredible, incredible group. Great to see Jockey there as well. Looking well and smiling. Just what a collection. What a collection. It honestly made me smile. It's so lovely. Just look at the photo, lads. Come on. It's so, so lovely to see them all together, smiling with that camaraderie. That's what football's about, you know? And a lot of those guys played in an era where there wasn't big money in the game, but they're so connected to the club and each other. It's just a truly heartwarming thing to see. So Merry Christmas to all of them, and it was a lovely photograph to see today. Oh, absolutely, David, you're right, mate. David Lewis said there must be some stories being told with them heroes. Mate, can you imagine? You know, you look at some of those players and you think, God, what would their values be today, you know, if they were still playing their trade. Some collection of talent in that photo. Ryan, how are we, sir? Said, I'd love to see Mark Gay and Angelo Stiller by next summer. I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say no. 2 players that I'd be more than happy with. On the Angelo Stiller thing, you know, I would prefer an Anderson or a Wharton, to be honest with you, because I do think we need to keep an eye on the homegrown players as well. You would have to pay a premium, of course, for one of those, but I mean, mate, look, I wouldn't say no to either of those 2. JT Cliff said, Craig, I still feel if Liverpool get £100 million offer in January and Salah's willing to go to Saudi, they'll take it. Look, I find it very hard to believe that Liverpool as a club would turn down 100 million for Salah with 18 months to go. But I was reading a lot today again about Mohamed Salah's family being so well settled in Liverpool. Of course, you know, his kids growing up there. So that there is that side of it as well. You know, that maybe they just don't want to uproot their family, which is completely understandable. You know, when your kids are in school and they've made friends and, you know, grown up there. But I have to say, like £100 million, I'd take it. You know, I might be on my own here, but I'd take it. Only if Salah wanted to go. Because if Mo's happy to stay and fight for his place, happy days. I have no issues with that whatsoever. But, you know, I'd like to know what was really said there between him and Arne, because Arne can't have given him assurances that he's going to play every week. He can't have done that. You know, will Mo be happy with fighting for a place? What happens if Mo, while he's at the AFCON, Liverpool play well and Liverpool find a system or relationships out there on the pitch that works? There's so many unanswered questions yet. But yeah, to get back to what you said, I'd struggle to say no to 100 million quid for a player with 18 months to go. It feels like it would be just too good of a number. Mr. Sharples, how are we? I still don't know. Do you know what? I'll be honest with you, Dave. I forgot, bro. That's on me. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, leave it with me. I know I've said that before, Dave. I owe you an answer. I'll give you an answer in the Discord, man, as soon as I find out. But thank you. 28 months with us, my man. Many memories, many great nights at the hot water as well, and many little jokes between myself and yourself. But always appreciate you, Dave. Thoughts on Mo Salah being a future Liverpool manager? I don't know. I've never actually thought about what Salah might do when he hangs up his boots, you know? Um, yeah. You know, ever since Carragher didn't go into management, I've kind of stopped trying to second guess these things because if you asked me when Carragher was coming to an end of his playing career, if he was going to become a coach, I'd have bet my life on it. You know, of all the players that, was at Liverpool, I would have said definitely Jamie Carragher. But he ended up going into punditry, so I don't know. I've not really given much thought to Salah as a potential coach in the future, let alone a Liverpool coach. Right, so let's get cracking with some more news. Want to give a little shout out to Hendo. Took his goal today and then did the Diogo Jota celebration, obviously in memory of his former teammate, which was always lovely to see. Lads, Alan Sugar's lost the plot. He's lost the plot. So this is what, and I refuse to call him Lord Sugar, by the way. I'm not having that crap. No disrespect intended to our viewers from the UK, but he's not a lord to me. So Mr. Sugar has said, with the massive fortune of the Lewis family, who of course own Spurs, it would be a win-win situation if they hired Jurgen Klopp in January. Lots of money for players and a great manager. Who agrees? There's absolutely no chance, Mr. Sugar, that you're getting Jurgen Klopp at Spurs. It's just not happening. No chance. I can't even believe he's talking about it. It's crazy. I am intrigued though about the German job in Klopp. I've always wondered what happens if that job becomes available in the future. You'd almost feel like, does he have a patriotic duty to take over the Germany job one day? It would also be kind of sad if Jurgen didn't ever manage Germany because, he's missed the German football, isn't he? Or one of them. So it's certainly love to see him have a crack at it someday. It'd be far easier looking at managing his country than another club after us, let's say. Heidi said, Klopp to Spurs, get a grip, Sugar. That's nuts, isn't it? It's nuts. I couldn't believe it. Like, come on. And also, is that not incredibly disrespectful of the fact that they have a manager? If imagine this was one of Liverpool's former owners or something, or chairman out with that, well, we still had a manager in a job. It feels massively disrespectful to Thomas Frank as well. Now, I know Spurs were easily beaten 3-0 by Forest today, and don't worry, Spurs fans, fucking happens to the best of us. We've all been there losing 3-0 to Forest. We actually have, which makes it all the more funny. But yeah, I'm licking my lips now at the idea of this game at Spurs next week because they've not been great at home this season. The Spurs fans aren't really enjoying Thomas Frank's style of football. So I think, it could be a happy hunting ground for us next week. Scotty, you're right, good lad, Craig. Up the Reds. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Those type of messages always mean a lot because you don't have to take the time to write it. But it really does mean a lot, my man. Thank you. And have a Merry Christmas. Do you think Klopp would take the Real Madrid job? No, I don't. And I've always said this. This isn't a new take from me. You look at Jurgen Klopp and what makes Jurgen Klopp Jurgen Klopp. You look at his background. You look at his worldview. You look at his football view. And I have to say, the Red Bull thing did surprise me. But Madrid, that feels way too much of an establishment type gig for Jurgen. I could see him maybe at Atletico Madrid. That would feel far more like a Jurgen Klopp type of job, than going in there and taking a handy job at Real Madrid. It just doesn't strike me as one that he'd be happy with, particularly with the Florentino Perez sticking his nose in every 5 minutes. It just doesn't feel right. Of course, he's the caliber of manager that could manage a Real Madrid, no doubt. But yeah, no, I've always felt like it was probably more of an Atletico Madrid fit for Jurgen if he was to manage in La Liga. Tomsy, new subscriber. Thank you, man. Appreciate you subscribing. Thank you. Your refreshing and honest view is a breath of fresh air. Love your show. Up the Reds and Merry Christmas. Hold that thought, mate. Hold that thought, because sometimes my refreshing and honest takes are a little bit too honest, shall we say. But I do appreciate your kind words. Thank you. Does Klopp's managerial style actually suit internationals? So, yes, in my opinion, Biggie Mall, and here's why. If there's one thing we know about international managers is they don't have much time. They don't have the time to work as much on the technical details as you do in club management, because you only get your players for short periods of time. So the reason that I think Jurgen would succeed in international management is his ability to manage and his ability to get players playing full of emotion. And that, particularly when you're at a World Cup or European Championships, that is a reason why I think Jurgen could definitely work as an international manager. His ability to inspire and, ramp up his players before they go out into the pitch. Harry said, how are you, Craig? I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. I'm looking forward to a couple of days downtime early next week, because it's been a crazy, crazy last month or so. But just happy the Reds won. My weekend's usually dictated by how Liverpool have gotten on, so very happy we won. So let's talk about Michael Olise for a second. This comes from Team Talk, and they report that Bayern Munich winger Michael Olise, who has been on Liverpool's radar for some time, is prioritising a move to either Barcelona or Real Madrid rather than a return to the Premier League. Now look, I have to say, if it wasn't to come to Liverpool, I'd probably prefer that Olise went to La Liga, because I'd rather have him in that league than playing against us in the Premier League or strengthening an opponent in the Premier League. But I'm not going to lie, he's always been my number one dream long-term Salah replacement, especially at the fact that he'd be 25 then when Mo's contract at Liverpool is over. So let's wait and see. Demo said, I don't support Liverpool, but I have a huge respect to everything that you say and do. Appreciate that, bro. And much love to you, sir. Thank you. So right, let's talk about one of the most crazy, crazy bits of footballing gossip that I've read in ages. Again, this is posted by Transfer News Live, and they credit Francois Gallardo. But this story would be insane. So it says, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is preparing a historic €10 billion bid to fully buy Barcelona, a sum that would immediately wipe out Barcelona's huge debt, estimated at around €2.5 billion. Now, I'm sure most of you are aware of this, but if you're not, Barcelona is owned by its members, its socios. So he would literally have to come in and buy everybody's share. And it would have to be voted for and passed by the Barcelona membership, obviously. Is that allowed? Would that be allowed? I really do wonder, because if you've looked at some of the stuff coming from Madrid in particular, they've talked about the English clubs and the financial favouritism, and I don't know, like, could the Saudi Crown Prince buy Barcelona and still have the Saudi involvement and ownership with Newcastle? Because, of course, they could very well be in the same tournament, in the Champions League. I don't know how that one would work. Would they have to sell up their Newcastle shares? I know we all have to pretend that the PIF and Saudi don't really own Newcastle. We know they do. So if the Crown Prince decided he was buying Barcelona, is that feasible? I have no idea, by the way, what type of ownership tests there are or are not in La Liga. I'm not as well versed on that as we would be, let's say, in the Prem. John Lynch said, I love a pint on a Monday night, except when United fans are in my local. You think they won the league. Oh, mate, I don't blame you, yeah. I just don't want to be above us in the table, John. I just don't want to be above us in the table, mate. It makes me feel grimy when we're behind United. Toby White Music. You're a legend, Craig. Thank you for the honesty. Transfer news quicker than Sky. I appreciate that, my man. Thank you. I don't know what's gone on, lad, but the last year, our channel's just... It's become such a beautiful place to come in and chat with you all each night. Like, it's always been great. But in the last year, man, the love you guys are giving back is... It has me walking on air sometimes. Like, I'm so humbled. Yeah, so appreciated. Thank you. Jonathan, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, bro. Appreciate you. Moosey said Barcola is a much bigger talent than Semenyo. So, you know what? For once, mate, and usually me and you disagree, I probably would agree with you on that, but I still don't want them. I just always found them so wasteful when I've watched them. Now, whether we could harness those finishing abilities of his or not, fair enough, but I don't know, just not one for me, mate. Not one for me, personally. Heidi, thank you as well for your kind words in the chat. Appreciate that. Oh yeah, I'm glad somebody brought this one up, Corbin. Glad the biggest Northeast club is humbling Newcastle. And the reason I'm glad you brought this up is I'm going to read you out something. And it was written by a Newcastle fan. And I actually can't believe they've managed to do it. They've managed to do it. But somehow they have. Hear me out. So they lost 1-0 to Sunderland today with an own goal from Nick Voltmada, which gave the Black Cats a victory over Newcastle. But this post is... Look, Newcastle fans, look, you don't like me. That's fair enough. I get it. But don't dare talk about us being deluded or toxic or whatever when your fans are posting this. Are you ready? Massive pressure for the home game against these now. We need to fucking humble them. Fuck Isak too. It's partly his fault, the rat Clint. So, F Isak too, as this is partly his fault, the rat Clint. How on earth can you somehow find a way to justify Nick Voltmada scoring an own goal and then turning that into it partly being Isak's fault? Please do let me know, Newcastle fans. How is that Isak's fault in any way, shape or form? Because that is... I lost 50 quid when I was 16. Fuck Isak. He owes me 50 quid. Because if we're all just throwing out any old excuse, Ireland got knocked out on penalties. No, actually, Ireland got knocked out by Italy, sorry. By a goal I never really liked, to be honest with you. So, I'm also going to blame that on Isak. Not the fact that we parried the shot from Donadoni and then it was tapped into net by Toto Scalacci. Now that I think about it, that was Isak's fault. You know? So, is that where we are now? Any old excuse to gloss over your own deficiencies, it's still Isak's fault. Just stick to those rat burgers, lads, and you know your free boxes of matches with your t-shirts and all. But that is peak delusional behaviour. What's Isak got to do with it? I don't know, man. I don't know, LFC Spectre, but they found a way somehow, bro. They found a way. Marvin said, I wrote me some Sky Sports YouTube. Nick Voltmada. I thought it was Newcastle. All I saw was the stripes because I'm colourblind. Stop it. Stop it, mate. We can't laugh at them. The poor Geordies have been through enough. They've been through enough, you know. Not only did they lose Isak, who they pretend now they're happy about losing, we also took Ugo Ekitike, which, you know, he's now starting to come good for us. But, you know, whatever it is, your car breaks down, ring up the AA. It's all right. It's Isak's fault. They'll send somebody out straight away. That is a deluded Newcastle fan statement, said Paul. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, mate, because, you know, they really have... They've taken it with such class and grace, haven't they? The whole situation. Like, it's a lesson to us all in football humility. Donny, Craig, I love you. You make the dark times better. I could say that right back to you guys, my man, but thank you. Yeah, you guys have definitely gotten me through some tough times on here. So I want to read out. I always have a look, and I always credit them for this as well. I always have a look on the Echo the day after we play, because they do a roundup of what other journalists writing in other newspapers had to say about the game. And I want to read out this piece from Sam Wallace of The Telegraph, and I wanted to get your take on it. So Sam writes, Salah at times looked like his old self, but is not reaching his previous heights as Slots Liverpool continue to find their way. He was the last off the pitch at the end. His adapted song from the band James hastily played on the public address system at Anfield. And if this was not enough, farewell for Mohamed Salah, then it certainly looked like... No, let me read that again, excuse me. He writes, he was last off the pitch at the end. His adapted song from the band James hastily played on the public address system at Anfield. And if this was not farewell for Mohamed Salah, then it certainly looked pregnant with significance. Huh? This is the first time I've ever seen the word pregnant used in a sentence without a child being involved. It looked pregnant with significance. Anyway, he continues, the great number 11, whose Saturday night outburst prompted a week of Anfield tumult, is off to play for Egypt in the African Cup of Nations, and whether he comes back to Merseyside is very much up for debate. After the reconciliation with Arne Slot, he started the game on the bench and looked quietly furious about it. Only an injury to Joe Gomez thrust him into first half action, and try as he might, the man with 250 goals for Liverpool could not score the 251st. Pregnant? I know it's Christmas time and all, and us Christians believe in the Mary got preggers without anyone touching her, but I'm confused, lads. Can anybody who actually has a better grasp of grammar than me explain this situation? How can a situation be pregnant with significance? Yeah, that's a new one for me. L. Stew said, I've heard the phrase a pregnant thought or a pregnant silence, but from very posh people. That must be why I haven't heard it, mate, because I've got an awful bang of working class off me. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been around anybody with pregnant thoughts. Thoughts on Pacho as an option at centre back? My thoughts would be that there's no way you're getting him out of Paris Saint-Germain, because he's been one of their best defenders. Very good player, and I would absolutely take him. But yeah, I just don't think it'll be a realistic one, mate. I put that up there with the ability for us to get Luis Enrique. I just don't think he's gone anywhere either anytime soon. It's Isak's fault, said LFC Spectre. You're right on that, mate. Isak going around impregnating journalists' thoughts now. Do you know what I mean? How do Palace survive on 25k gates at Selhurst Park these days, selling players? That and the television revenue from the Premier League. I mean, look at Bournemouth. What's Bournemouth Stadium like? 12k, 13k, something like that. So they're in an even more precarious position ticket wise. Now I think Bournemouth are extending, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, look, the TV revenues in the Premier League are what generates most of the club's cash. Donny said, Craig, why do you think the lack of investment into centre back in the last 5 years? It's a good question. I can't give you a justifiable answer. And it really annoyed me this summer, because what we did is we went into this season with Joe Gomez, who, with all the best intention in the world, is always going to pick up a few injuries throughout the year. A young centre-back who, at the best and in the most optimistic, could have worked out and got us some game time. But then you've got Canada, whose contract's running down, and Virgil, who has no competition. So it feels like we've shafted ourselves, mate, is what it feels like. Why leave it so late in the window to try and get Mark A? This is something I keep coming back over in my head. Because if you want a centre-back, you want to give the manager time to work with them as well. So I've never understood why we left it so late. And the only thing I can come up with is that we tried to save a few million quid. And look how that worked out. Now, look, there's nothing to say if we had assigned Mark A, we don't know where we'd be now or how it would have worked out. But I dare say some of the jittery moments from Canade may not have happened because Gay would have probably played then. Right, so we've nearly had 2,000 votes. And when we do, I want to ask you what you think's happened with the Salah situation. So we need about 130 more votes. If you can, folks, please do let us know. Who would you rather Liverpool signed in January? Bradley Barcola, Antoine Semenyo, or neither? Ollie said they don't make much from ticket sales apparently. From what I've heard, an expansion of 10k seats would take almost a decade to recoup. That's from a financial analyst on the Overlap fan debate. Thank you for that, Ollie. Very helpful information. Oh, actually, Stephen, I have heard that. Now that you mention it, bro, I have heard that. I have, mate. Maybe I'm posher than I thought, Stephen. I don't know. But yeah, fair play. Yeah, I have heard that one. Jeremy Jacquet was being scouted yesterday against Brest. Don't you do it. Don't you dare do it. Don't make us have that Brest chat again. That was one of the most fun streams, actually, in the last few years. All them Brest puns when they were in the Champions League. Yeah, we had some good times. We had some good times during those streams. Irfan said, I don't rate Barcola and he might not adapt to the Prem. Semenyo is a must. I think signing a centre-back won't be enough. We need a DM as cover. I'm right there with you. Look, I'm mixed, mate, because I don't want to... I'm trying to manage my own expectations. I'm going into the January window and I honestly don't really know what to expect. So in my own head, I'm thinking, don't be greedy, which is hard for me. It's hard for me not to be greedy. So I'm thinking, don't be greedy, centre-back. But you're right. If I was putting my, what do we actually need? Well then, yes, a centre-back, a DM, and probably another wide forward. But I don't know how realistic, if at all realistic, that would be. In a window, mid-season, in a World Cup year, I don't know. I don't know how easy it would be to do. Now, the Semenyo one, we know the situation there. And we'll move on to talk about that more in a moment. Malty said, I was at the game yesterday and it was good to see the fight back in the lads. Kirkes was brilliant. You're right on Kirkes. Connor, the other half of our channel, said that he thinks it was Kirkes' best game in Liverpool shirt so far. And I would single out Ekitike, Kirkes, Szoboszlai and Jones. If I had to pick four to single out praise for, I thought those lads were brilliant. I definitely think Salah had an impact when he came on in a positive way, as did Chiesa. But Chiesa is the situation that I'm very, very intrigued by for the January window. Right, we only need 30 more votes. And the reason, by the way, I'm so intrigued by the Chiesa situation is I think deep down, Arne would rather get rid of Chiesa and bring in a Semenyo. So I could see a world where that maybe happens. I know initially all of us are thinking Salah. And look, there could be something to that as well. But I just get the feeling he wants another option because he doesn't trust Chiesa. Now, of course, I think that's wrong because Chiesa, has only looked like he really cares and he really puts in a shift every time for the few minutes he gets out there. But we can't just keep burying our heads in the sand and thinking, is this going to be the time where he plays Chiesa? So I find it difficult to believe that when Salah's out of form and young Rio has no competition and hasn't been blooded in yet, and Gakpo's injured, I don't think it's accidental that he goes to a system with no wingers. knowing then that Mo's going to the AFCON, I almost think that that's more of an indication of the fact that he doesn't want to use Chiesa than anything else. Because you should think, right, Mo's not playing, Chiesa on the right side, happy days, and then maybe Wirtz to the left or young Rio to the left. But instead, he's gone to a system that doesn't use natural wingers in it. And that's why I think he's potentially looking to move on Chiesa. Right, so 59% of the 2,000 people that voted, in fact, it just went up to 60%, said that they would like Antoine Semenyo in January. So let's see what you think on Salah then. Let me type this out. Okay, that's one option. And last one. Right, so what happens with Salah is the question I'm going to ask you. 3 options. He sees out his deal until 2027, which is the one he's contracted to. Sold in January or sold in the summer. So I think that's pretty much covered the options, but yeah. What's Forrest Gump's password? 1 Forrest 1. Brilliant. I do love a shitty Christmas cracker joke. I keep saying I like him, but really, was anyone excited when we bought him? To be honest, I think he was just a bit player. Chiesa. I have to say I was excited when we signed him because I thought this could be a real bargain, like a real bargain. But as time's gone on, it felt like it's ended up being more of a frustration for fans than a celebratory kind of thing. Through no fault of ours, by the way. Yeah, now it feels like we're looking at somebody that we're spending 7 million quid a year on that the manager doesn't want there. Irfan, thank you, bro, for gifting 20 memberships. That's very kind of you, and I'm sure that they'll be hugely appreciated by the people in the chat that received them. Thank you, my man. Mo said, whatever happens, the best decision would be to sell him ASAP and let him keep his ego fed somewhere else, and he'll be top tier instead of a liability. Interesting. For me, mate, I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I think ultimately where I'm at is, and thank you, Fred Jones, as well. Thank you, Fred. I think ultimately where I'm at with it is this. If 100 million gets banged down on the table at any point, January, the summer, take it. Got to take it. Like, let's be realistic. £100 million. I couldn't say no to that. With all the love and respect that Mo deserves, £100 million for, let's say, 1 year without Salah versus him leaving for free a year later. I couldn't say no to that, lads. I couldn't. You know, it's £100 million. That sorts out your DM and your centre-back. Yeah. And removes... look. I'm cynical. I am. I'm a cynical dude in some circumstances. And I don't think the drama with Mo is over. Even if he stays, I don't think the drama's over. Because I think what happened at Leeds will happen again. Because I don't see a world where Mo goes plays in the AFCON and Liverpool then go through, you know, a period of 4 or 5 weeks, blooding in new players and potentially this new system. And I don't see a world where Salah comes back in if we've done in any way well and gets dropped straight into the team. Nor do I see a world where he's going to be happy to just sit there and fight for his place. We've already seen that he's not happy with that. And that's understandable. It really is. Like, when you are at that level and when you've achieved what Mo has achieved. I get it. There's two ways to look at that as well. He knows that his time at the top level is ticking down. So of course he wants to be on the pitch for every minute possible. That's human nature. That's natural. Same with any player. When we went back and we talked about Andy Robertson, and when he was looking towards a potential Atletico Madrid move, we all said Robbo's, at the twilight of his career. And, at that point in your career, you want to play football. You do. You want to play. You want to enjoy every minute of it and take it all in. So I can't see Salah ever being happy on the bench in any scenario. And that's why I think it's not going to go away. That's just my take on it. Call me a cynical old fool, but, that's my take on it. Shy-Town, Red, how are we, mate? Said, I don't think it's over either. I'm worried a few poor performances back on the bench and we're here again. We can't buy anyone that's attacking if he's still not here. And also, another thing we haven't yet seen is, was there an apology? Was an apology asked for? And it still doesn't feel resolved to me. Yesterday was cool. And, it was certainly a better situation than I'd envisioned as the week went on. And I'm really happy with how yesterday went. Mo got his minutes. He contributed to the game. We got a win. And it feels like it's a much better vibe than it was 4 or 5 days ago. But, like I said, I just don't think it's over. Uh, 60s Red said, there's no way Liverpool let Mo go for free. The only reason he got a contract was to be able to sell him. Liverpool want him to shine in the AFCON and have lots of offers. I don't even necessarily think Liverpool need him to shine in the AFCON. 60s Red. I just think all Liverpool would have to hear is that he wants to play more football and he's open to the Saudi Pro League. And if that was the case, then I think they take the money. Tong Poo said, Craig, Adam Wharton or Elliot Anderson? So if you asked me that question 2 weeks ago, I would have said Wharton all day long. But ever since we played against Anderson, I've been paying particular attention to him. And he's incredibly impressive. In the middle of the park and defending from set pieces and stuff. He's so I'd take Anderson. I would. I'd take Anderson. And like I said, if you asked me that a few weeks ago, I definitely would have said Wharton. But I've been very impressed by Elliot Anderson. Hey Craig, only just joined up. Love this show. Come on, Liverpool. Thank you, Jer. Appreciate you, my man. Hope wherever you are, you're having a good one. Will Slot even play Chiesa when Salah's away? Well, you see, Paul, that's why I think the Semenyo links are all the more intriguing. Because we all maybe necessarily assume that if we sign Semenyo, it's Salah gone. But I actually think there's a world where Chiesa is gone. Because remember, it's a World Cup year. He hasn't got the best relationship with Gattuso anyway. But I feel like he's going to want to play. And I know Arne said that he likes Chiesa as a man. He likes him as a player. But, I'm not buying that. So I think if we sign Semenyo, Chiesa moves on. Because I don't think there's a world where Chiesa and Salah move on and we only bring one in. That doesn't make much sense to me. And also, the situation with Endo is an intriguing one. We brought you a report late last night when we did the late night agenda, and I'll read it out to you now. So, Krish, AKRRISHFT on X, posted, Liverpool are ready to let Endo leave in the January window if the club receives a suitable offer. Premier League and Bundesliga clubs, including West Ham, Southampton and Stuttgart, have shown interest in signing Endo in the last few weeks. Liverpool's shortlist to replace him includes important names such as Wharton, Ederson and Angelo Stiller. However, those deals are unlikely to happen mid-season. Well, then we can't let Endo go mid-season. We just can't. Look, I'll be the first one to say to you, Endo doesn't play every week. I never will. But he is an experienced, multifaceted player that we know can play in a few roles if we're stuck. So if you're going to let that player walk out the door in January and not replace them immediately, I just don't see the upside of that to Liverpool. I understand Endo wanting to play before the World Cup. Again, totally get it. But, in our own situation, we need to have another option. We're already extremely light in the DM position. Throw in the fact that Endo can play as a centre-back as well. And you can see how important he may be for the rest of the season. Right now, we don't know how serious Joe Gomez's injury is. James Pearce reported it was a hamstring issue that he was going to have a scan on. But if he's out, then we've got two centre-backs. Two. Even bringing in Gay, it's still not enough. So the idea of letting Endo go just seems insane to me. What if Chiesa's injury means he can only be a squad player now? Like, never fully recover with his hamstring issues? What if we're so wrong about the situation? Then isn't that even more of a reason, though, Ollie, that he should have been moved on? Like, if you think you've got a player who you can't get up to full speed, you get that player out the door quickie. You just do. You keep shush about it and you get the player out the door. And, if somebody else figures it out in a medical or whatever, fair enough. But you don't keep that player around. And I don't think we've even seen him utilised as a decent substitute option enough for that to be the case. I just think the manager doesn't want him. Forest would be a hard club to do business with. It would take a stupid fee. It would. I agree. I've seen figures ranging from 80 to 100 million for Anderson. And, I don't think he's at that level. Do you think if we sign Gay, he would also be able to cover at CDM? No. Maybe he could, but I don't see it as being something we'd look to. Because our need is really dire at centre-back. So I just don't see why you'd be throwing him into another position. No. Because even if you thought about it from the point of view of, let's say, Canada and Virgil play, and you play him as a DM, then you're still having all of your centre-backs out there on the pitch together in a precarious position where you're still an injury away from being up shit creek. What's a realistic price tag for Endo? It's a good question. I'm in the kind of 8 to 12 million category. I don't know about others, but initially that's where my head is at it. 8 to 12 mil, somewhere around that. Vert said, Craig, just joined other BARCOLA news. Yeah, let me read it out to you. 1 second. So Matt Thielen, I'm not sure if Matt still works with that FC transfer room or not. I don't know, but I've known Matt through social media and a few interactions for years, and he's his finger on the pulse of all things Liverpool. So he wrote a week ago, Liverpool are continuing to monitor the situation surrounding Bradley Barcola. Richard Hughes has been in communication with his reps since the summer, one to keep an eye on. And now Matt posted today to say, reported Liverpool's interest in Barcola nearly a week ago. Liverpool are very interested in him as they're fearful Semenyo was going elsewhere, i.e. City, and Barcola is said to be ready for a new project away from the Paris capital over in France. So, yeah, like I said, I have no idea, but I don't know. Barcola's name has been floated around even in the summer as somebody Liverpool were looking at. It just feels a bit far-fetched for me. The Saudis would love Salah because he's a Muslim. Forget about political correctness. Mo from Celtic to Italy in the 80s and went to Rangers. I don't know what you mean with the second part of that, mate. The first part, look, of course. You know, they've made no secret of the fact that he's the one they want most in the Saudi Pro League. Like, he's the highest profile Muslim athlete probably in the world that I'm aware of. So, of course, it makes absolute sense to me that he would be, you know, the one that they'd want to carry the project forward when I think Ronaldo's leaving the Saudi Pro League in 2027. So I can absolutely see a world where Mohamed Salah would draw a whole new level of eyes, sponsorship and attention to the Saudi Pro League. Oh my days, is it really 1-1 in the Madrid game? Oh, lads, that's shocking. That's shocking. And they got a penalty for the goal as well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, did they? That's shocking. Yeah. Craig, they want Salah to be the poster boy for the Saudi League. I know, totally understandable as well. Especially with Ronaldo, as I said, moving on in a year's time, I think. That's crazy. 1-1 with Alaves. Nuts. Do you think Robbo gets an extension? Oh, I think he'll be offered one. I just don't know if he'll take it or not. Because it feels like Kirkes is starting to get into a groove now. And I think he's probably going to be the starter more often than not going forward. But that being said, I genuinely think you could make the argument that Robbo would still get 30 games between all competitions and substitute appearances. Same on the right side between Frimpong and Connor Bradley. So for me, look, I love it because we have quality on the left side then. So look, I think an extension, yes, but I couldn't tell you where Robbo's head's at with it. I really don't know. With Cherky, Doku, Savinho and Reinders, I don't see where Semenyo fits in that City team. I just don't think he's a good fit, even outside of the number of players that they have. There haven't been many, if any, real successes from people who've gone from lower division or lower Premier League clubs into Man City that I can think of. John Stones, maybe one, going from Everton, but, you know, if you look back at some of the players who made the jump to Man City, Grealish being the most obvious example, it just didn't work, didn't cut it. So if you put into that and the fact that City still have all them charges hanging over them, I don't think it's a good fit either. What's your thoughts on Alisson? I really think he's got a good 4 or 5 years left in him at the top level. I'd like to see him getting an extension for a year or two. Yeah, this is one of those situations that I've almost intentionally buried my head in the sand because I feel like Alisson has a longing to go back to Brazil, to be closer to his extended family. And he's spoken before about wanting to go back to International. He's also starting to pick up more injuries. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, his contract runs to the end of 2027. So I don't think he signs an extension, but I think he goes on a free in 2027 back to Brazil. That would be my best guess at it. Walker and Sterling work, to be fair. Good point. I forgot about Kyle Walker. Raheem Sterling worked for a while, yeah, that's a fair point. But Sterling came from Liverpool. The fuck am I calling Liverpool a smaller Premier League club? You know? So, you know, that was a different one. He came from one big club environment into another. Walker, yeah, I'll give you Walker. Do you think we can challenge for the title if we go on a run? No, I don't. It's 2 point gap now between Arsenal and City. And I don't think it's our business to be looking up that high up the table. We know, let's focus towards catching Chelsea and then seeing if we can't rein in Aston Villa. But I just think it would be deluded of me now to sit here and talk about a title push. If these injuries continue, I wouldn't re-sign him, said Uzi. Are we talking about Alisson? I just don't think there will be an extension there. Because if he does want to go back to International, they're not really going to be in a position to pay a big transfer fee or that. And so it feels like Liverpool get the service we had from Alisson, which, let's be honest, has been nothing short of incredible. And then almost reward him with that passageway back to International, if that's what he truly wants. God, I'm just trying to think, has there ever been a player who came in for big money like that, Salah aside maybe, who has repaid us more for the transfer fee we invested in him? You know, I remember when we played against Roma and we beat them over the 2 legs. I never thought that the level of Alisson would get to the level it did when we'd signed him from Roma. He is definitely the best Liverpool goalkeeper of my lifetime, and it's not even close. I will be really interested to see where he goes down in the pantheon of Premier League goalkeeper greats, because there have been some incredible keepers throughout the Premier League era. But it'll be really interesting to see where Alisson goes into the conversation over the course of time when he leaves the Prem. Because I can't think even the most begrudging of anti-Liverpool people could say anything other than an incredibly positive thing about Alisson's contribution to the Premier League. We need a definite Champions League place or we're going to have problems, said 60s Red. Yeah, we do. So look, let's get through this Salah one. Then I want to know where your heads are at with the manager. So at the moment, we've had 1,000 votes. If you can, do vote. What we're asking is, what happens with Mohamed Salah? He sees out his deal until 2027. He's sold in January or he's sold in the summer. Any injury updates? Nothing new on Joe Gomez anyway, James. No. Not sure. Sometimes they want to wait a day for some swelling to go down before they do a scan. So I've not seen anything new on Joe. Frimpong should be, I think he should be nearly available for the Spurs game. The way things are going, I think he's been training, so I think he should be certainly in contention for that. Bradley was a suspension, so he's going to be back. Nothing new on Leone. Still don't actually have the answer on Bajcetic. So yeah, unless I've missed somebody there. Apparently Bayern Munich are interested in Mark A. Yeah, they are, as many other clubs are, but let's wait and see. Like I said, my understanding is the guy's given his word that he'll join Liverpool, like I've said many times. I don't know when, but that's my understanding of it, and I've not been told anything to the contrary since. Do you think Georgie becomes the new number 1 and Petchy the new number 2, or do we sign a new number 1 when Ali leaves? I think the plan is certainly for Georgie Bamidashvili to become the new number 1, but I'm still somewhat on the fence with Georgie. I totally understood the signing of him, and at the price point, I think it was a good signing. It's just really hard to judge him when what we're comparing him to is one of the best to ever do it. So I don't know where my expectations should be for Georgie Mamardashvili's ability level. You know, he certainly has the frame, the stature, doesn't have the distribution skills of Alisson, but maybe the Premier League and the style of football is changing. Like we've seen City go from an Ederson type keeper to a Donnarumma. Yeah, I'm on the fence with Georgie Mamardashvili. I'm not 100% certain if if he will make the grade or not. But I do think he has a chance. Harry Elves said, West Ham or Leeds to get relegated. West Ham. Unfortunately, I think West Ham. Because what Leeds have shown that West Ham really haven't yet is a togetherness and a fighting quality. I think ultimately, and again, I don't want to speak for West Ham fans, but I've spoken to maybe 10 people who've been to their stadium, home and away, so, you know, visiting fans and locals. And that stadium, I think, has been a huge part of their decline, as well as, of course, some of the player acquisitions. So I think West Ham have a more talented squad. But I just think that stadium versus Ellen Road and the factor that the Leeds fans can put into the Leeds team, yeah, I think Leeds might just stay above them. Craig Leone set to return to first team training in January. I've not seen nothing to say that. I've seen a few people speculating on it, but, you know, I hope he is, man. That's great news. But I've not had anything to confirm to me that he's ready in a month to return to training. I truly don't know. So I hope you're right. What's wrong with their stadium? It's devoid of atmosphere. It's just not a football stadium. You know, you're too far away from the pitch. Yeah, just there's no atmosphere in it. And it doesn't matter who you speak to about it. That is the one consistent thing that keeps coming up over and over and over again, is they just can't get the crowd really involved as much as at Upton Park. Eddie, any news on Hugo? From an injury sense, I don't believe there's anything to be concerned about, if that's the question. Yeah, I think it was an impact dead leg or something, Eddie, so nothing's come to my attention of any potential injury there. You know, we are lucky that we've a week now between games, so plenty of time for a bit of R&R and any, you know, recovery sessions and muscle work that needs doing. I think Hugo strikes me as the type of guy who's going to want to be out there, especially with the form he's in. Right now, he's certainly the saving grace from our number 9s. No atmosphere in Anfield, did you say? No, I said at West Ham Stadium. I don't know whether that was a sincere question or a knock to Anfield, but, you know, anybody who doesn't think Anfield has an incredible ability to impact games, you're fooling yourself. Ask any player that's played there against us in a meaningful game. When we sign more players up front, where does that leave Rio and Chiesa? Well, Chiesa, I do think, mate, is destined to leave soon, whether it's January or the summer. Rio, the whole Rio situation is just weird. You know, when they say we don't want to block the pathway, how long are we talking about? Because, like I've said before, we can't just write off a season having no competition on the left because the club think Rio eventually will get there. If you think and are so positive that he's going to get there, well, then why aren't we seeing more of him? Because others of his age have started to play somewhat regularly. But with him, even after that big breakout moment at Newcastle, it's been slim pickings. And he's not really playing much underage football or reserve football. So I just don't see how this is benefiting anyone. You know, he's not getting minutes, so it's not benefiting him. Yes, he's training with the first team, but you can't replicate real world first team minutes. And we're screwing ourselves out of having another option on the left. That meme guy said there's just no way he can train after an ACL in January, so get a DNA test on him and see if it's not Clark Kent. Like I said, I've heard nothing to suggest he's back in January. In fact, it's been pretty damn quiet on Leone's progress all around. Any info when Frimpong will be back? He should be in contention to be in the squad for Spurs next week. He's back doing work on the pitch. So, yeah, he should be definitely in contention for the Spurs game. Can you give a rating of Sloth's Liverpool career from start to now out of 10? Yeah, 1 sec. Right. So from start to now, 6.5. And I think that's fair. And I'll explain it. So there's no denying he came in and did a great job and won the league. But I do think there are moments even in last season that I was disappointed in. Losing the League Cup final to Newcastle was annoying. The way we went out of the Champions League so early was annoying. Losing to Plymouth Argyle is all kinds of unacceptable in the FA Cup. And then our form for even after we'd won the league or towards winning the league fell off a cliff. And then we've been so inconsistent between now and then. So if he hadn't have won the league, I'd probably be saying 4. But because he won the league, that obviously counts for a lot. But there still have been quite a few moments of, I don't want to use the word failure, so frustration, even allowing for winning the league last year. Irfan said, Champions League, fair enough, but the Newcastle drubbing was really bad. So you say fair enough on the Champions League, Irfan, but I'm going to tell you why I think a little bit differently. The only reason we played Paris Saint-Germain was because we lost to PSV Eindhoven when he put out a garbage team. And if we drew or beat them, we don't play PSG. So by losing over there with the weakened team, we fucked ourselves. And we got PSG. And then we got knocked out. So we dominated the league format, finished top of the pile, and go out in the very first knockout round. So that annoyed me. And anybody this season trying to dress up, throwing away the League Cup as any type of master plan, I don't buy into that either. Because watch now, when the teams play in the next week in the quarterfinals and get to a semi, watch the conversation and watch the buzz and excitement in and around those clubs and their dressing rooms. And nobody will ever convince me that if we had have gotten past that round into the quarterfinal, got a home draw, that we would not be buzzing right now about a potential Wembley final in the near future. And that wouldn't have also given more minutes to the younger players, and it would have had the feel-good factor at the club and another potential trophy in a season where the league's already probably gone, Champions League's open, and the FA Cup, we got a decent draw, but who knows? So there are moments that just still wind me up. And that League Cup thing pisses me off. We still got first in the Champions League, so how would it change if we still won? Not meant to sound rude. Because it would have changed their positioning. So because PSV beat us and moved up the table, that forced PSG down the table into the position where we played them. That's how it had that knock-on effect on us, mate. Badger Tits, how are we? You felt me a lot with mental health, just to let you know. And I've reported videos on TikTok of people mocking you. It winds me up. Look, don't bother reporting that about people mocking me, because I'll tell you why they do it. For relevancy. It's as simple as that. Mock me all you want. You're talking about me. I'm in your head. I win. Because I don't know who the fuck these people are. And I mean that sincerely. I haven't got a clue who they are. But they're mocking me for a reason. Because they want relevancy. They want engagement. And again, I win. That's the way I look at this situation, mate. People can hate on me all they want. No problem. Just don't stop talking about me. Because if you stop talking about me, I'm in trouble. So the very thing that you're doing because you don't like me is only increasing my profile. So crack on. Keep doing it. You be you. Like I said, I just hope any of these people keep that energy if they see me. Simple as that. You say whatever you want, but I promise you, you best fucking pray when our paths cross, you keep a different energy. Simple as that. But yeah, as I said, you just keep talking about me, I win. Simple. That's the way I look at it. I think maybe it's the only way I can look at it that doesn't drive me demented. Because if I really get into it, you can get down on yourself very quickly. But ultimately, I would say that these people have never had a conversation with me and don't know me and judge me off a clip. Because I would challenge anybody to come in here, spend an hour and a half watching one of our streams and leave thinking I'm an asshole. Genuinely, I would. But I can also understand why you'd see a clip of me and think I am. I get that. But it's just a weird level of behaviour. To hate somebody so much that you're making content about them when you've never had a conversation with them. Do you know what it is? It's beta behaviour. Simple as that. It's the reason why they'll never make anything of themselves is because that's their outlook. Aha, I'm going to go shit on this lad and try and badmouth him. Yeah, but that lad's relevant, you see. The lad you're talking about for engagement. Meanwhile, all you can do, and this will be a warning to any content creators that go down that kind of sensationalist route, is there has to be a time where your sensationalism reaches its peak and it gets into levels of danger where you're either pushing the note too far or you're getting yourself into trouble. So, yeah. Simple. That's it. I don't care if people talk about me. Crack on. I'd be more worried if they stopped. My wife hates footy, but she's now a fan of yours after hearing you every night. Thank you, Irfan. And I've had so many lovely comments like that over the years. Because I've always been honest with you guys and said, I get it. Of course I can understand why people think I'm an asshole if they see a clip. But, that isn't me for 95% of my time on here. So the people that do come in, they usually stick around. Some of that's down to me, but a lot of that's down to you. Because they see the community we have and the type of interactions we share every night. Isaiah, how are you, mate? Said, Craig, I was really surprised with the stat we have the highest XG in the league. I feel if we had a bit more luck on our side, could really change things. Not just the highest XG, mate, the highest chance creation as well. So let me just get the stat back up for you. 1 second. Where was the who scored post? This one. So yeah, who scored posted, no Premier League team so far has created more chances with 197 or a higher XG with 30.2 than Liverpool this season. So there's something to that, all right, but would also like to see the numbers around our defensive side. Because, whatever way we look at it, we've a +2 goal difference at the minute, which ain't great. Badger Tits said it's okay for people to stumble upon a clip and say, okay, maybe. But when they judge you on a couple of seconds clip taken out of context, it is what it is, my man. Like I said, I can't control it. So I kind of blissfully ignore it. Most people know this, but maybe, I don't know if you do or not. I'm not on social media. I don't have TikTok. I don't have Instagram. I don't have X. I have this, which I guess is social media. And that's it. And Discord. So, I don't see any of it. I get what I need sent to me. If I need something posted on X, I'll ask the lads to do it. We've got a social media manager that runs that. And I needed to do that for my own sanity. Because if you spend your life looking for approval on social media, it's a miserable old game and it ain't going to come. So I've took myself out of that about 3 years ago. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but since that, the channel's gone up and I've become a lot more happy. I don't miss it one bit. Not a second of it. Why are Arsenal making excuses about injuries? What happened to the squad depth? They signed like 10 players. Can't even spend because of FFP. Well, my answer to that is simple. The manager. He runs some of these players into the ground. And now he's trying to defend Gyökeres, which, look, he has to do. I get that. Who hasn't had the greatest of starts. And look, I can't throw any stones. Isak has been horrendous for us since he's come in. But I do feel, and I said this at the time, so I'm not trying to take cheap shots at a guy who's just in the door because it's too soon to judge. But I've always felt he wasn't going to cut it in the Prem. And I've always said I didn't want him at Liverpool for the very reasons that I just don't think he's going to be good enough in the Premier League. I actually thought he'd be doing a bit better than he is doing with Arsenal. But that's always been my opinion of him. I just never understood why they fought so hard to sign him. Kilo said, absolutely, Craig. Social media ruins people's mental health. You're spot on. Honestly, I think this sounds really over the top and a bit boomerish. But I really do think we were screwed over by all of our governments. I mean this sincerely. And you can maybe make the argument that they couldn't foresee what was coming. But the world is driven by anger these days and belittlement and hate. And social media companies have let that run rampant without any check to their power. And now these same companies are some of the biggest companies in the world. More powerful than most governments. It's a sad, sad state of affairs. And it's something I don't want to be a part of. I don't want to be a part of the generation that fucked over kids' minds. Like, I'm eternally grateful that I didn't grow up in and around social media because it gave me a far better grounding and a far better ability to read human beings and connect with human beings. So many, in doing what I do and the shows I've done, I've had the pleasure of meeting so many people after shows we've done. And one common thread that keeps coming up, and I could say the same about my own son. There's not enough real world human connection these days. Everything is done online. And I spoke to you guys the other night about going down to Courtown Hibs to, be presented with the jersey we sponsored the club with the kit for. And how my own son said to me on the way back, that looked fun, Dad. I seen lads of my year, lads of my school, all running around, training there and having fun together and laughing and joking. And I couldn't have given him a better analogy of why it's important to be around other kids than he realised himself. So, yeah, we're producing, because of social media, a generation of very fragile and unrealistic young people who have expectations of themselves that aren't really fair. Because all they see is money, power, influence, things coming to people easily, crypto, all this shit. They don't see your mum and dad out there grinding to pay the bills, to keep the roof over their head. A normal life, I keep saying it to my kids. Fuck that shit. That's not life. That's not you winning. You winning is being content. You winning is being able to look in the mirror and love yourself. And I'm not at that stage yet. I don't look in the mirror and love myself. I look in the mirror and hate what I see. And I'm incredibly insecure. So it only multiplies my own insecurities on social media. And I don't want that for my kids. So yeah, I'm very blunt with my children. I don't sugarcoat shit for them because the world's going to fuck them over many times. And they got to be prepared for it. So that's my take on social media. It started off with beautiful intent from people reconnecting with people I haven't seen or people in far-flung places. And it ended up in just a cesspit of vitriol, false information and hate that's hurting the next generation and giving them unrealistic world expectations. Yes, Andrej. So Craig, I had my first shift and my first ever job. I was amazingly happy to end my first day. Proud of you, mate. Well done. Well done. Yeah, well done you. Nick said life changed a lot in the last 20 years. Oh, it definitely has, mate. God, it has. You know, in one way, I'm glad some of the shit I got up to wasn't recorded on phones, on social media, because me and my wife often, and look, any parents in the chat, I'd love to get your take on this as well. Me and my wife often talk about how naive our daughter is. Like, our daughter's 21, and she's incredibly naive in the world compared to the experiences we would have had at her age. And she's certainly far, 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 far better behaved than I was at her age, in every sense. You know, in nights out, in looking after myself. Yeah. So this generation of kids are very clever, extremely bright. It kills me to think of them being manipulated for the betterment of others. And I even wrestle with that on here. You know, sometimes I put out a comment or a thumbnail and I'll challenge myself and go, are you driving this? Are you just driving anger now? Are you playing on fears? So maybe I'm guilty of it at times as well. But I think we all have to reflect on these things occasionally. Right, anywho, let's get back to football. So we asked, what happens with Salah? Sees out his deal in 2027, sold in January, but 44%, so the most voted for answer, said they think he leaves in the summer. Right, let's ask about the manager. Okay, one. Right, so where are you with Arne Slot? I want him to stay, I want him fired, or unsure. Because I'm definitely somewhere between I want him fired and unsure. I'm somewhere in between those. Did I want to be a YouTuber when I was younger? YouTube didn't exist as a job when I was younger. So my first kind of foray into entertainment-y type of stuff was a bit of pirate radio. And then I blagged my way into becoming a DJ. And I literally mean I blagged my way into becoming a DJ. So then I had that for a few years. Then I went to Greece. So I kind of stumbled into this at about 35 into YouTube, and came into it not knowing what a football YouTube stream should really be about. So we used to do 3.5 hour live streams most nights where we just talk about everything. Man, it could be anything. And it kind of just grew from there, which is why our streams have always been not solely football focused, although it is a Liverpool fan channel, because I've used the streams to help me with my own loneliness, which was ultimately what got me into this. Is I'd locked myself away from the world and I wasn't connecting. So this was my way of building something. Never ever ever did I think this would be a job. You know, I've told you this story loads of times. When we started, I thought if we can get 5,000 subscribers ever, that would be a huge accomplishment. And then my wife showed me a video of Lad Baby getting a silver play button, and I think I've told you this last week. And I remember thinking about, wow, 100,000 subscribers. Wow. And then we got there, and it's, it still felt like an accident. So even now, when we are where we are, none of this feels legit to me, because I feel like I don't. In one way, I feel like I don't deserve it, but then there's another part of me that says, why not me? Like, somebody's got to do it. Why not me? Give it a go, Tony said, you're the epitome of a big man having a big heart. A pleasure meeting you the last live. Thank you, Tony. Thank you as well for coming along. It was, I really enjoyed that last show. It was a lovely one to go out on. And the only reason I ever did any of those shows was to challenge myself, because I didn't think I could do it. So I did it, not for me to say if it was good or bad, but I've done them, and it's something I feel proud of, that I was able to do it. Mark said, not to be toxic, but I want Slot gone. I often wonder if he'd contemplate stepping down rather than getting sacked. I just don't see enough improvements in our performance. So I don't think he'd step down because of the finances involved in it. I think it cost about 10 million, according to one estimate, to get rid of Slot. So, he's not going to walk away from that. Yeah, I'm with you though, Mark. I'm not fully convinced yet. And it isn't just from this season. Last season, at the end of the season, we talked about what we'd done well and what we needed. And I still think, for the players he was given in the transfer window, what we've seen this year is unacceptable on so many levels. And some of the excuses he comes out with, like, you're talking about low blocks. Come on. Isak, Ekitike, Wirtz, and you're moaning about a low block and not being able to unpick it. Injuries, well, you want a small squad and you're not rotating enough. Injuries are going to happen. You didn't bring in a centre-back. So there's some stuff, mate, that, it doesn't sit right with me. Have you noticed one thing I've never bit on the channel? And look, God knows I bite on a lot. I've never bit on any of the 6-7 stuff. And here's why I've never bit on it. I actually rate it. I rate the whole premise of it as being this generational thing. I respect it, so I don't bite on it, because, crack on, you be you. You be you. 6-7, crack on, no problem. You're not being toxic, you're not threatening anybody. If you're having a bit of fun and it makes you smile, be you. Excuse me. Ifti Hamid said, you're a big part of our lives. Love you, bro. Thank you, man. Thank you. If by the time I leave YouTube, if I can get out of it, and I don't mean this to sound sexual, but if I can get out of it loving myself, I'll be happy. If I can get out of it being able to continue to look in the mirror, I'll be happy. Would I ever do a show at Cortown Football Club? I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any plans to do any more shows, but, if they wanted me to come down to do like the awards night or something, of course I'd help out. But yeah, I don't have any plans for any more shows or anything like that. I actually don't even know what my future is on YouTube. My goal from day one is to somehow buy a home for my family, and we're closing in on that. And if I can do that, and this is a bit morbid, and I said it the other night, but I'm trying to put my affairs in order for my family. So as if I do go down the route of my dad and my granddad and I pass away at a young age, that, I've left my wife and kids something that, will keep them safe. And that's it. I'm not a flash guy. I don't give a shit about being a millionaire. I couldn't even give a shit if I ever become a millionaire or not. But I want to buy the council house I live in, and I want to give my family a bit of security. And if we can do that, I'll be a happy man. Rain said many things wrong with Slot, including not developing the youngsters. He was supposed to be good with developing young players. Outside of the World Cup final, which game that happened in the last World Cup would you like to see again? Oh, God. Do you know what, man? I don't know. Like, I have, like, remember, Ireland weren't in it, so I wasn't really that invested in the World Cup. I'd watched it because I wanted Messi to do well. But honestly, I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I can't think of one that stands out to me that I'd like to see again. Sonder said, Arna out if the season isn't pitch perfect from here. See, and that post, mate, kind of makes my point. Because once the conversation starts in a fan base, even if it's a 50-50 split or whatever, once the conversation comes up once and gets a bit of traction, I've always felt like it's only a matter of time at that point for a manager. Because, like, let's say we win the next 3 games and then we lose another 2. That's going to trigger it again. And that's going to trigger the divide. That's going to trigger the toxicity. It's going to trigger the negative thinking. It's going to trigger the atmosphere inside Anfield. So when it gets to this point, I don't think it's ever really salvageable in the longer term. So I don't think Arna's going to be here in 2 years' time. That's why I was so adamant on sacking him. Couldn't agree more, Craig. Exactly how I hope to define my success in life. Well, I haven't got there yet, Shy-Town. We're in the process of trying to buy the house. And when I say buy it, I mean mortgage it. I don't have the money to buy it. So we're in the process of trying to do that. And hopefully that comes through, and then I can relax a little bit. Craig, I first see a clip of you on TT and thought, who's this idiot? TT. Twitter? What's TT? TikTok, sorry. And thought, who's this idiot? Then I see you on here, watch 5 minutes and thought, this geezer is all right, you know. Now I come on to get the gossip of my rivals. Keep it up. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Look, as I said, I'll never judge anybody who judges me on a clip, because I get it. I've done it of other people. But sometimes I just think people go a bit too bad. You know, like someone saying, oh, idiot take. I've no issue with that. But someone saying this is a bad person. Like that, the numpty thing. I can't tell you how hurt I was by that. And I was on holiday and I damaged nerves in my shoulder. And for the first time in my life, I thought about killing myself. Over that. That's how bad that got for me. I spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. Because it really felt like somebody was out to get me. Because if that's the best you can come up with to try to cancel me, and it got traction, it scared me. It scared the shit out of me. Because I couldn't even believe it became a thing. Like, it was, how could that have ended up being a potential racist incident? You know, again, I was talking about a white referee. The N-word, in the sense that they, you know, tried to accuse me of nearly saying, just made fucking no sense. And yeah, that really broke me. Especially when so much of my own self-esteem is tied up in my reputation. That was tough. So stupid, like. You know, it's bad enough people think you're going to say it. But for people to then start clipping up and lying about it, trying to say it was about Frimpong, it wasn't even playing, it honestly broke my fucking heart. And my daughter was at a party and someone said to her, "Your dad's a racist." And she said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Oh, he nearly said the N-word." And my daughter said, "No, he didn't. He said numpty." And even for her to have to defend me in that situation hurt. Because she shouldn't have had to. Because it was just so silly. By the way, fun fact, the first time I saw you was a Sidemen reaction video and your unpopular opinion on Paul Scholes. Oh, that was bait. There's a story that goes along with that. So when I was doing content in my early days, I did some stuff with 888 Sport, and we were doing a segment that day filming, and my original post was that Paul Scholes didn't belong in the Gerrard Lampard debate. But, and this was my own naivety, I was then kind of talked into a more sensationalist piece, which I leaned into, I did. And I said, one, Henderson's better than Scholes, and Scholes nothing but a ginger Mark Noble. But what people never seen after that clip was that I didn't do any more of it. I walked away from that type of setup because when I reflected on it, I felt like I was being, not manipulated, but being egged towards a very sensationalist type of content that I didn't want to be attached to. So I stepped away from it and haven't gone back since. But yeah, that's one that keeps coming up over the years. But it definitely was bait on my part for sure. Where is this one? BARCOLA is better than Semenyo all day, every day of the week. I've never been able to take the BARCOLA because of his very erratic finishing. I just don't think his conversion rate's anywhere near high enough. And look, again, I'd be open to stats to challenge my perception on that because I am working off a handful of times I watch them. What made you become a Liverpool fan? The 2-0 loss to Arsenal. When they came to Anfield and won the old First Division title. I think I've told this story loads of times. So the long version of the story was we were on a plane to Mallorca on holidays when I was a kid. And I come from a family of 3, me, my mum, my dad. So obviously we have a row on the airplane. And I was that annoying kid at 7 or 8. It was kind of banging and knocking on the seat in front of me on the airplane because I was fidgety and I couldn't sit still. So a couple that were sitting in front of us turned around and just got talking to my mum and dad at that point. Jan and Dave were their names. And they became friends with my mum and dad. So then, fast forward a few months later, they lived out in Raheny on the other side of Dublin. So we went out to their place, and my mum and dad were having a Chinese and some cans with them. And I was in the living room. And I was in the living room and I was flicking through, and I think it was ITV. And I seen Anfield. And I was mesmerised as a kid who only just found his way into football. And I seen Anfield. And then I kind of got the context of what was happening from the commentary. And we lost 2-0 to Arsenal. But I sat back as a kid and I seen the respect that Anfield had for that Arsenal team. And that they didn't boo them or they applauded them in a heartbreaking moment. And that was it. That was the thing that made me a Liverpool fan, even as a child. And it's a weird story because it's a loss. Nobody pushed me towards being a Liverpool fan. And then as I got a bit older and I learned about the ties between Dublin and Liverpool and all the emigration, it just made those bonds and connections even closer. So, yeah, weird one, but that's the God's honest truth. of how I ended up supporting Liverpool. Turpy said, I didn't like that. Sorry, I don't know what that was, mate, that you didn't like, so no idea. No part of my young brain thought that we were going to lose 2-0 at home. As I said, like, the significance in that moment of that game didn't really hit home with me. But yeah, that's when I caught the Liverpool bug. And then immediately my next birthday, my dad went out and got me the grey flecky candy jersey. And weirdly, I was in Sligo at that point. Paul Owen said I was a sticker album kid in the 70s that got me. Height Poston said my hero was Barnes. He was the reason I started to love Liverpool in 49. Well, a very good reason. What a player. Yeah, what a player John Barnes was. Incredible. Badger Tits, a bit of a weird one, but I had a colonoscopy yesterday, horrendous pain, and the prep was, the doctor told me men should get one in their lives. Have I thought about it? Yeah, of course I've thought about it. Yeah, I'm getting to that age now. And I haven't had a colonoscopy, but I have had a prostate exam before. Actually, a long time ago, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm definitely at that age now where I'd be thinking about it for sure. I do get regular checkups on my, heart, cholesterol, and believe it or not, I'm actually a fairly healthy person outside of the weight. But yeah, well in you, and yeah, always don't be one of them men that puts everything off, and just says it'll get better and go away. No, always look after your health, mental or physical. Dalglish was the man that got me to be a Red, said Rob. Again, another brilliant reason to be a Red man, Kenny Dalglish. I don't know if everyone was with us at the start, but this photograph here was posted, but I think it was by Aldo. It was the former players having a Christmas celebration night together, and I just thought, what a picture, what a group of players, what a group of talent, so much history, so much Liverpool folklore in that group. It's just an incredible photo with so many incredible people that are, a big part of why our club is what it is. Prav said, you're humble, Craig, which is your strength. However, you could swear less, as young people also view this channel. So, on that, I'll defend this to the death, by the way. What's so wrong with swearing? Now, hear me out. When somebody says fuck, who are we hurting? And also, who do we think doesn't use the word? I would rather have my son listening to somebody effing and blinding than being misogynistic, having hate in their heart, or preaching a lack of tolerance. So this is what I always defend swearing on. Who are we protecting? Because you think little Johnny and Mary don't swear? Do you think the solicitor representing you in court behind closed doors doesn't swear? I've never understood the problem with it. The key to it is knowing when you can and can't swear if you're a kid. So my younger kid, swears, but he wouldn't dare swear at his teacher. You know why? Because he respects his teacher. And he knows the time to say or not. So I've never understood the outrage around swearing, because who are we hurting? It's a word. It's a word with so many different iterations and meanings in different parts of the world. And in Ireland, it's so prevalent that, it's even the C word. We use it in a complimentary way. So yeah, I've never understood this stop swearing thing, and I'll always push back against it, because ultimately I'm not on here teaching those young people that you mentioned to be a misogynist or to hate women or to be intolerant of other races or beliefs or sexual orientations. I'm the very opposite. So I think I'm a good influence. And I think my swearing is just me naturally being me. So yeah, like I said, I don't know who we're hurting or who we're protecting, because any of these little kids you're talking about, they all swear. Everybody swears. Itachi said, evening, my friend. Do we really have to go for another winger like Semenyo if we're changing this to a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2? Centre back is a priority, DM as well. Emma, for good, do we need a third striker behind Isak? Or Eket Isak? It's really interesting on the point you've made about the wide player. And I tried to say earlier on that for me, I think he'd be bringing that player in maybe as a Chiesa replacement as an option longer term. But I can't disagree with you on the need in other positions being greater. Definitely. We need a centre back badly, if not two. 50 ping Skiller. Thank you, mate, for being with us as a member for 8 months. Said Ekatike is my new favourite. Firmino type. Yeah, he's a very easy man to like, isn't he? Just bundles of energy. I was blown away when he knocked the ball past the centre back yesterday and just vroom, left him in the dust. So yeah, I've not really seen anybody to push back and give me a genuine reason on the swearing thing. Like I said, I've never understood it, because you need the context of what you're saying as well. Do you think Isak and Ekatike could work? Definitely. Yeah. I don't think two up top with Isak will work. Isak will only shine with other wingers around him. No, I genuinely do think there's a world where Isak and Ekatike can play together with a number 10 in behind them. But as many has pointed out, and as I would point out as well, if we do go with the system we play now, even if we go or don't go all the way to a back 3 or 5, I still think we're going to be dependent on needing energetic fullbacks on either side who can provide the natural width. Would I take Mbappe if he was 150 million? No, because of the drama that comes along with him. As a player, he's incredible, of course. But yeah, it's just, I think it's a bit too big. And all that comes with him, the circus that comes with him. Ekatike creates his own chances. I love him, said Itachi. I criminally underrated that signing when we signed him. I did not expect to be as impressed by him as I have been. Thomas said, I'm sorry, but Mac is a grass inspector. Footballers will know what I'm talking about. Well, I don't know what you're talking about, and I've played football and been around it my entire life. I think you mean he's on the ground rolling around too much and he gets in too many scrapes. I'm guessing that that's what you meant. And look, he definitely gets stuck into his fair amount of sticky situations. But my bigger problem with Maka this season would be I just don't think he's hit his levels. Now, he's not on his own. You know, there's many under par players this season, but yeah, Maka for me went from being an indispensable, absolute bona fide starting player to being maybe falling behind Curtis Jones in the pecking order. Certainly this season anyway, which, God, I never thought I'd say out loud. Any news on Gomez? No, nothing yet, mate. James Pearce last night said, let me just get this post. He said, Joe Gomez set to have a scan to determine the extent of the hamstring injury he picked up. Really hope it's only minor. He was outstanding for the first 20 minutes today. So yeah, nothing new on that one. Do you think we beat Spurs by 6 to 7 goals? No. I don't know what to expect from Spurs. Are they going to be... Are we going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back and gets their manager fired? Or is he going to get a response from them after the 3-0 beating that they suffered at Forest. I think it's more likely the first one, but I don't know about the magnitude of that victory. But I do think we win, and I'm actually quite confident going into it. Right, so we're nearly up to 1,000 votes on the Arne Slot thing. Before we finish up, let's see if we can get it to 1,000 votes. So if you can, we're asking, where are you with Arne Slot? I want him to stay, I want him fired, or you're unsure. Swear away. When we think about it, fuck is a perfect word. It could be a verb, a noun, an adverb, or an objective. Exactly. And also, like I said, it's the tone of someone and the impression they're leaving on your kids. And I would say that any kid that's watching this, yes, they might leave swearing, but they'll also, I hope, get an impression of how important respect is, and some humility, and I would say a positive impression. Arsenal were quite lucky with their win. Yes, they were. To go life and death with a really struggling Wolves team and needing 2 own goals. I think City are gonna best them and win the league. Itachi said, I had a feeling that we signed Isak, took the pressure off Hugo. It's so weird, but he seems to be our number 1 striker at the moment. Oh, he defo is. Definitely is. Right now, if I had to pick one striker to play, it would be Ekitike every day of the week. Sonder, do we need another clear out this summer? Gakpo, Chiesa, Endo, Robbo, Bradley could all be improved on. Love the streams, Craig. Keep grinding. I'd push back on the Bradley thing if he can prove his fitness. Because I think as a player, he's got everything to be a huge success at fullback. But the ability to stay fit, that's up for question. Endo, agree. Robbo, I'm not sure what happens there. But I still would like to keep him around. I don't see us getting rid of Gakpo after him signing a new deal and how much the manager loves him. I think it would have to be Arne leaving before, and maybe a new manager to come in and not put the same amount of faith in Gakpo. But rather than talking about what we might need to remove Sonder, I think we just need to build out the squad a bit more as well. So we need to have some more some more centre-back options. Certainly a DM. So I think building out the squad a bit more, as well as 1 or 2 first-team players. Nick said, and Haaland's back scoring again. I couldn't believe how many goals he's actually scored. What is it, 17 already? That's ridiculous. What is it? Ekitike's on 7. Salah's on 4 in the league. And Haaland's already at 17. And what is it? Igor Thiago's on 11 or something. Right, are we there yet? Yes, we've done the 1,000 votes. So, 46% of people are unsure. And outside of that, as you can see, exact split on I want him fired and I want him to stay. That is a perfect snapshot of where Liverpool fans are at. Nearly half of us in the middle, and the other half perfectly split between I want him gone and I want him to stay. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not on my own to be confused. Right, I'm going to wind this down because my voice is starting to go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're recording the podcast at 3:30, so that should be out before 5 o'clock. So do keep an eye on that. It'll be myself, Connor, and Chris. I'll be here for the late night agenda tomorrow night. I think Connor's putting out a news video in the morning. And after that, Tuesday and Wednesday, we're taking the days off. Well, I am anyway, because I really do need to get a bit of a mental rest before the busy December, January period. So look, appreciate you all coming in tonight. Thank you. And I hope you have a lovely evening. Appreciate your support as always. Do drop a like for me before you head off. And thank you for coming in, spending some